In our last video, we announced to the world how the Pakistan government approached Iran soon after the assassination of Larijani and offered them technical competency that they had developed in neutralizing AI-based killing. I mean, that's the uh, most charitable way in which I can describe that. And having lost two layers of their leadership, Iran accepted. Pakistan overnight delivered that competency, and since then, no Irani has been killed. So that video now has about 200,000 views. It is widely shared by everybody. And this morning, I received a phone call from a contact in Islamabad and said that, listen, you have created a sensation here in Islamabad because uh, every major defense related government official is being stopped, is being asked about what you just said.
So the Gulf Cooperation Council is sitting down all the foreign ministers of the GCC countries. That means United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar. They're all there. The Saudis are represented there, and the U.S. Secretary of State. What are they discussing? So, on the top of the agenda, as far as my Qatari friend was telling me, is the fact that the United States is trying to get them to acknowledge a fait accompli that Iran now controls the Strait of Hormuz. This
Today is Friday, June 26th. I'm joined by my dear friend and brother, Vijay Prashad, who has been traveling all over the world, as he usually does, and brings to us a very unique perspective, an extraordinarily unique perspective for our global audiences. And if I can be allowed a degree of self promotion, I would like to say that our channel has accomplished nearly 1 million views in less than 3 weeks and almost 50,000 subscribers in the same amount of time. And one of our videos, the last one, has about 200,000 views and, and still growing. And the reason is that we bring you the news that nobody else does because we are not corporate media. We are all independent and we are here because we love to do what we want to do, which is to bring you the latest information on how the world is changing. And in that chain, our founding member, Vijay Prasad, is here from Johannesburg, South Africa, and I am delighted to invite him to the show. Welcome, Vijay. And
nice
one
to
other
be
thing,
with
if you
you.
like what we
Yeah.
do, please hit subscribe and please hit like because we want to grow our audience. We will be in 12 languages in about 10 days, maybe sooner. 12 languages, including every single major language of the region. So, Vijay, anxious to hear what you have to say.
Well, firstly, Zulfikar, we are watching carefully all around the world what is happening with Iran. I mean, nothing really can move unless there's some guarantee that the deal with the Iranians and the United States, inclusive of what's happening with Israel and Lebanon, how that deal is going to hold. And that has to do, of course, fundamentally with the question of the oil markets and the fertilizer markets returning to normal. Otherwise, places like South Africa, already in turmoil, lots of despair on the streets, despair, unfortunately, moving from strict anger at the fact that there's inflation to hatred of African migrants into South Africa, what here is known as Afrophobia. There are groups under the name of March on March that have been coming on the streets, violently harassing Mozambican, Zimbabwean, Zambian, Ghanaian people who basically are running small so called spaza shops, little shops that provide through credit in many cases bags of rice, basic groceries, toiletries and so on in the midst of very poor communities. These shops are being burnt down and so on. People are very angry. They're turning upon the very poorest. Many of them are migrants. A very sad situation in South Africa. And in fact, one of the forms of relief is going to be when inflation comes down. I must say, political forms of relief are not on offer from the government of Cyril Ramaphosa. You would have thought that President Ramaphosa would have taken a strong stand against Afrophobia. After all, for all his shortcomings, he was, one of the important leaders of the African National Congress at the time of the end of apartheid. He was, in fact, newly elected head of the African National Congress at the time when Chris Hani and others returned to South Africa for the transition. You'd have thought he would have come out and said, "This is outrageous." Instead, he's made comments about so-called illegal immigrants and so on, flaming, inflaming the situation even more. But as I said, it starts and ends in the Strait of Hormuz, because when inflation comes down, perhaps the temperature will also come down a little bit. But right now, Zulfikar, I'm not sure what to make of these deals. The Iranians and Omanis had put on the table that eventually, when the deal begins to hold, that Iranians and the Omanis will collect a toll from ships that come out of the strait. Now, the Iranians apparently have made a comment to the Omanis that they would prefer if ships come in the northern part of the strait, in other words, towards Iranian territory rather than Omani territory. These are the small little details that have that could dangerously delay implementation of the full ceasefire. But as you well know, we have all been snooping around, digging around to see what are the guarantees. We know from experience that no piece of paper is a sufficient guarantee. There has to be some resources behind it. So, I mean, that's what we've been trying to find out is who is going to resource this deal. The Iranians have made it very clear they want whatever money has been held apart from them, sanctioned money must be released to them. Well, who is it going to be released by? Will it be released directly by the United States government? Trump doesn't want his fingers on that. It'll have to come through the Gulf Arab states, most likely the Qataris. It could be that the Saudis, as you well know, would be the ultimate guarantors of any financial infrastructure for the deal. The Saudis are also keen to slow down this conflict. They had been so keen that they had participated in the three-way dialogue between Saudi Arabia, China, and Iran. We well know the dialogue had taken place in Tehran, in Riyadh, in Beijing. A fourth circuit of the dialogue had been completed. Saudi is very keen to get the question of the Iran Saudi Arabia conflict off the table so that they can proceed with Saudi Vision 2030. So I'm sure that somehow the United States is going to work out that there will be a cash benefit to the Iranians. It will come either through the Qataris. We well know that Qatar often carries the suitcase for everybody. And so the Qataris might be the financial guarantors of the deal, could be the Saudis directly, is very unlikely to be the United States. But the real tension for this deal continues on the table. Israel, has not stopped hitting southern Lebanon, and this is really threatening the deal. I don't know what you are hearing from the Trump administration side, but for God's sake, is Israel going to scuttle this for everybody, including the spaza shop owners in poor neighborhoods in South Africa?
Uh, your internet is a little bit shaky, Vijay. I mean, you started out really well, but then as
Yeah.
you started speaking, your video became quality became poor, and even though I can hear you clearly, but your words don't match the video that is coming through. So perhaps if there is anything you can do about the video, I'm not sure
has
that
the video
there is,
quality improved at
because
all?
it is all connected to the internet and the quality of the internet. Uh, I mean, please just take a look at that if you can. Are you are you able to do anything right now about
Has
that or
the
no?
video quality improved at all?
A little bit, yes. Much better right
Okay.
now. Much
Okay,
better right
good.
now.
Great.
Okay,
Great.
you asked me a question, Vijay, and I would like to answer that question, if I may. As you know, when we spoke last time, and since then we have been making videos with our co-founders, Pepe and Larry. We have an impeccable source that provides us very, very good information that is proven to be accurate a couple of days later. I would like to break some news here about that chain of information. Uh, in our last video, we announced to the world how the Pakistan government approached Iran soon after the assassination of Larijani and offered them technical competency that they had developed in neutralizing AI-based killing. I mean, that's the uh, most charitable way in which I can describe that. And having lost two layers of their leadership, Iran accepted. Pakistan overnight delivered that competency, and since then, no Irani has been killed. So that video now has about 200,000 views. It is widely shared by everybody. And this morning, I was there. I received a phone call from a contact in Islamabad, and said that, listen, you have created a sensation here in Islamabad because uh, every major defense related government official is being stopped, is being asked about what you just said, and uh, and the defense minister Khaja Asif, particularly, I was informed, was asked this question. All of the information that we had provided, that is this true? And he said, uh, as they usually say, we are not going to say yes, we're not going to say no, and you are journalists, you can do your own investigation. But however, I do have a message for Israel. This is something that he said should not be published, but our contact says that we can announce He knew that we were going to have a conversation. He said, I have a message for Israel, that you better stop all of your actions that are designed to scuttle the deal,
Mhm.
particularly something that we have reported previously, your AI target of our defense chief Asim Munir. I mean, we reported this on our channel that Netanyahu considers Asim Munir to be the uh, number one protagonist and antagonist in all of this. And as they usually do with all their antagonists, they just kill them. And Pakistan has become aware of that. Khaja Asif made a pointed comment, not saying that we know what you're doing. He just said, we know everything that you're doing. And this is something that I want to say very carefully. He said, if you proceed in that, we have the ability to wipe you off the face of the earth.
Mhm.
I mean, that strong language, which perhaps will be reported in a couple of days. So, in my view, with all of the information that has come to us from reliable sources, Islamabad is working very, very closely with the top leadership of Iran and with the top leadership of Riyadh. They are going to be in Riyadh. Pakistani Prime Minister and Asif Munir are going to be in Riyadh within days. And Riyadh has made it very clear that they do not want this deal to be derailed. Really, really clear that they will. I mean, in fact, during the negotiations, when there was a question based upon Trump's completely ridiculous, uh, unserious comments that
Mm.
he's going to do this and he's going to do that. Riyadh came forward through back channel and said, "Well, stop the Iranians from leaving. We will provide $12 billion. If push comes to shove, we are going to finance the entire deal." And then Qatar came soon thereafter because the money is in Qatari banks. So my assessment, based upon everything that I know, is that this deal is going to go forward. But your assessment that that part of the world is going to change forever, forever, is really, really, really true. Because Arakchi, the foreign minister of Iran, Pezeshkian, uh, as far as I know, are still in Islamabad. They were in Islamabad yesterday, and I don't think they have left. And they have a big delegation with them, negotiating all kinds of stuff that had been on hold as a result of the sanctions and and numerous restrictions from the entire West, not just the United States. And that is going to come off. And there was a statement by Arakshi that henceforth in this region, the security will be handled by the people who live in the region, not by anybody outside the region. And in this arrangement is not only Iran, not only Oman, Qatar, Pakistan, which is a South Asian country, but
Mm.
very much in West Asia right now, providing the capabilities that it has demonstrated, and also because of the fact that it is the only country that has great relations with all three major powers right now in the world: Russia, United States, and China. And included in this arrangement and talks are Saudi Arabia, uh, and something that you would not necessarily come to recognize as normal partners, Turkey and Egypt. And because you have your pulse on what is going on in that part of the world, Vijay, I was just very anxious to hear what you had to say about this.
Yeah, just to carry forward the analysis that you're making, while the Iranians are still in Islamabad, I was chatting with a friend of mine from the Qatari diplomatic services because US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Manama, Bahrain. He's been there since yesterday. Well, what's happening in Bahrain? That's of importance and interest to us. In Bahrain is taking place the GCC US meeting. So the Gulf Cooperation Council is sitting down all the foreign ministers of the GCC countries. That means United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar. They're all there. The Saudis are represented there, and the US Secretary of State. What are they discussing? So, on the top of the agenda, as far as my Qatari friend was telling me, is the fact that the United States is trying to get them to acknowledge a fait accompli that Iran now controls the Strait of Hormuz. This is a very, I want to spend a few minutes on this. Until the United States and Israel illegally conducted a war of aggression against Iran, Iranians didn't claim to control the Strait of Hormuz. As you well know, ships came in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. Neither Oman nor Iran, whose territorial waters actually cover the totality of the Strait of Hormuz, they could have exercised sovereignty over those waters a long time ago. They never did so. They treated it as an international channel, free and open for all kinds of shipping, including US warships, which had been coming in and out of there to get to the US military facilities, particularly in Qatar, but also in other places, inclusive in the outskirts of Dubai and in Kuwait, in Bahrain, radar facilities, and so on. So the Iranians never blocked anything. They let the traffic go in and out. Well, they were attacked, and a consequence of the attack was they restricted access to the Strait of Hormuz. And now they are claiming in a sense, complete control over it. Well, the Emiratis are furious about this because the Emiratis do not want to allow the Iranians to have control over the Strait of Hormuz. So Marco Rubio has been sent to the GCC US meeting to convince the Emiratis in particular to basically accept a fait accompli, which is that, well, the the Iranians now, alongside the Omanis, but really the Iranians. Remember what I mentioned earlier, that Iran is saying that shipping must come in the northern part of the Strait of Hormuz, meaning in Iranian waters. I think this is a ploy. The Iranians said that during the sitting in Manama of the GCC plus US. They are sending a message to the Emiratis saying, listen, we control it now, forget it. Now, this is interesting because it has a lot to say, and my Qatari friends were quite clear about this, about the security arrangements, the diplomatic plus security arrangements in the Gulf Arab states. Okay, let's take a moment on this. From roughly the end of World War II, roughly, the United States has claimed to provide a security umbrella for the entirety of the region, including after the coup against Mossadegh in 1953, including of Iran. The United States was to protect Iran, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf Arab states, all the way around. In fact, the United States initiated in 1955, I believe, the meeting in Baghdad, which forms the Baghdad Pact or CENTO, the Central Treaty Organization, the NATO of that part of the world. The United States became the guarantor of the security of all those countries. Well, that's all very well. Because of that guarantee, the United States then was given base land to build military bases in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Qatar, and in the United Arab Emirates, and so on. And they built very large, considerable bases. I've seen the one in Qatar. I've seen the old base infrastructure in Saudi Arabia. These are very large bases. The one in Qatar is to the west of Doha. You have to sort of drive along a desert road, and then it just keeps going on and on. This base, enormous piece of land. Well, during the first Gulf War, there was a bit of an uproar in Saudi Arabia, and the Saudis had to then expel the US from the bases because the argument made by the sheikhs inside Saudi Arabia is this is Dar al Islam. This is the home of Mecca and Medina. The custodians of the holy shrines cannot permit United States military to have their boots all over the soil. Now remember, this is 1991 when Iraq had invaded Kuwait. At this moment, the United States had to sort of back off, and they slowly removed themselves from the base in Saudi Arabia. As a consequence, the US strengthened its base structure. Because they had been removed from Saudi, they strengthened the base infrastructure in Qatar and so on, grew them even more as a way to promise security to this region. Now, after the Iranian Revolution in 1979, the United States pretended as if it was the main security architecture for the Gulf Arab states and Saudi Arabia. Okay, well, what has this conflict demonstrated? US and Israel launched their war of aggression on Iran. What does Iran do? It does what any intelligent power would do. It strikes the US facilities in all the way from Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, down to the United Arab Emirates, apparently even in Saudi Arabia, although I was not really keen on the news reports that the Iranians had struck Saudi Arabia. I think that was not, in fact, true. But they hit all the US facilities. They took out radar installations. They got through the US Patriot missile batteries. They hit airfields and so on. And they demonstrated to the Kuwaitis down to the Emiratis that, listen, my Arab friends, you are not going to be protected by the United States. So what this has meant is GCC is sitting there with Marco Rubio in Manama while we talk now. They are having a serious discussion about the future of the security architecture for these countries. Not only about the Strait of Hormuz, but the security architecture. These are the two issues on the table. Number one is the Strait of Hormuz. They have to, accept the de facto Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz. Number two, who's going to provide them with security? Well, apparently, and we must confirm this in Islamabad, apparently the Iranians have said to them, we will guarantee your security. The only people who can guarantee your security, it's
I can
not,
second that. I will
yeah,
second
it's
that.
not going to be Washington D.C. It's going to be Tehran. That means, and I think that before the year is out, we're going to see something like this. Before 2026 is over, I think the Gulf Arab states are going to have a sit down with the Iranians, and they're actually going to formulate a treaty about a kind of a peaceful arena where the Iranians say, look, we have no, you are our neighbors. We don't have a problem with you. We are even willing to provide Qatar with drinking water from across the channel. This has been on the, this pipeline has been debated and discussed for decades to build a pipeline from the lakes in southern Iran to Qatar. This has been, so they will say, we can do all these things for you. We'll guarantee your security. What must happen is we must have normal relations with you. That means the banking system must be opened. That means you pay tolls at Hormuz and so on. So I think before 2026 is out, not only has Iran won a strategic conflict against the United States, not only has it humiliated Benjamin Netanyahu because it's been able to tie Iran's security with Lebanon, despite the fact that Israel continues to pummel Lebanon. Let's set that aside for now. The United States has agreed to link Iranian security with southern Lebanon. That is a huge advance for the Iranian and Hezbollah position. But on the other side, I think before the year is done, and let's see how it pans out, but all indications suggest before the year is out, the Gulf Arab states, the GCC countries, Emiratis, Kuwaitis, Qataris, you name it, including perhaps the Saudis, will have a sit down with the Iranians and they will chalk out a long term diplomatic bargain. And I'm very interested. It's not going to happen immediately. First, I think in Manama, the United States is going to persuade them to walk away from there, saying, okay, the Iranians have exercised their sovereignty over Hormuz. It's actually consonant with international law because those are their waters, not international waters. And if the Gulf Arabs agree to that, then the question is going to come up of their security. And then we're going to see a Gulf Iranian diplomatic entente. By the end of the year, I think something will be cleared up. It'll be very interesting, whatever it is. It'll be very, very interesting. And in the middle of all this, the Iranians won't have to just use the Turkish banks. You mentioned Turkey is in the picture here. Well, for good reason. During the harshest sanctions period, it was Turkish banks that did a lot of the work for the Iranians. Turkey will be on the table, but so too will the Gulf Arab states, and Iran will be back in the game when it comes to exporting oil and being able to collect money for the export of that oil, which they have not been able to do in the open market.
Well, I second every single thing that you just said, and I only wish to add because I have some very reliable connections that have been very useful, very kind to us with information as early as this morning. Pakistan is in the mix of all this, even though it is a South Asian country, but
Hmm.
it has managed through what I would say brilliant moves that it has made. I mean, I'm not seconding or saying anything about the very harsh treatment that they have done to Imran Khan, who I support, and other things. But in this particular arena, in this particular area where Pakistan has been operating, they have done a brilliant job. And I would like to confirm everything that you just said and add to that that Pakistan has emerged as a net security provider because Pakistan is the only country that possesses the capability to strike Israel with nuclear weapons at any part of Israel right now. And in fact, I mentioned that statement by Khaja Asif. I mean, I'm saying that with absolute certainty because I heard that this morning. Khaja Asif made that comment that if that was in connection to threats against Asim Munir, and that it was couched as scuttling what is going on. So I have no doubt that the statement made by Arakchi in Pakistan that in this region, any issues of security will be settled by the people who live in this region. That is a statement. He didn't say Iran. He did not say Pakistan. He did not say anybody else. He said outside powers are not going to be allowed to come here and provide security to us or deal with issues of security. So I completely second and totally support every single thing that you just said. And it's very valuable information. And we need to provide that to our global audiences because it will completely tectonically change the way the world has functioned post World War II.
I think that the Israelis have made a terrible, terrible error in trying to threaten Asif Munir. I think that is Asif Munir, is a respected figure. Let's
Yes.
not exaggerate the question of the Pakistani military's role in Pakistani society and so on. But I don't think you can get away with threatening a military leader in a foreign country and not see some pushback, at the very least. We know already, and this is important, Zulfikar. We already know from open reports. We don't need anything other than that. We already know that Pakistan has made it very clear that assassinations of and made it very clear to Washington that assassinations of Iranian officials will not be tolerated. This has already been made clear. This is not a statement to Washington. This is actually a statement to Washington to carry to Tel Aviv so that the Israelis don't do anything. The Israelis have made a serious error threatening a high official of the Pakistani establishment. It's a big, big error to have done that. So that message has come from Islamabad to Washington for Tel Aviv. And it basically is asking for blanket security for everybody in the region. That's number one. Number two, interestingly, Pakistan has inserted itself into the deconflict mechanism in Lebanon. I found this very interesting. You said something about Pakistan is a South Asian country, now it's a West Asian player. It's one thing to have been the neutral terrain for the US Iranian talks, to have, in a sense, sherpad those talks. It's one thing to have that. Okay, that's one thing. Pakistan is a neighbor of Iran. Pakistan is, as you say, one of those countries where they are talking to the Iranians, the United States, the Russians, they're talking to everybody. So it made sense that Islamabad would set the table. Previously it was Oman who had set the table for the negotiations between the US and the Iranians, but Oman's table was corrupted once the US attacked because they betrayed the Omanis. Oman is angry with the United States, which is why it is agreed to the Iranian proposal about control over the Strait of Hormuz. Why would Oman have agreed to that? They could have easily said, we are not interested. The southern part of the strait is open to international traffic. But no, they agreed with the Iranians. So I think it's important for us to put on the table the fact that the question of Pakistan being the site of negotiation, it should not be by itself what we look at. We should understand how Pakistan has been able to insert itself into the negotiations around Lebanon. Because, in fact, the Iranians have said there's no question that Lebanon is a separate file. It's tempting for the Israelis to say, look, okay, you want to cut a deal with the Iranians, that's file A, but Lebanon is file B. No, no. The Iranians have said from the beginning, Lebanon and Iran are in the same file. It's file A. There is no file B. If
absolutely,
there's no,
absolutely correct. Absolutely
yeah,
correct.
if there's only file A and no file B, Well, the Pakistanis then have the opportunity to insert themselves into the debate around what is the deconflict mechanism for Lebanon, and that's interesting. They are brokering. They are brokering even those negotiations. I think this is a fascinating development, and I would say this is underreported in the Arab world. I don't think it is well understood how Pakistan has entered as the person as the diplomatic corps that's insisting that, in a sense, Hezbollah is part of the deal. It's very confusing for people. It confuses them because it messes up their whole idea of sectarianism. I mean,
That
how
is
is Pakistan?
fantastic reporting, Vijay. Fantastic analysis. I mean, this is the reason that you are a founding member of this channel, which has become actually very well respected, and soon will be in Arabic, like within a week or so. I mean, I can add to that because of what I know. Pakistan has, in fact, made a a diplomatic message to Israel that you mess with Lebanon, missiles that come to you will not come from Tehran. They will be coming from Pakistan, and our missiles are much more deadlier than anything. I mean, I am providing you something directly from Khaja Asif's mouth. He's the defense minister. It's not reported anywhere. It's reported to me because of my relationship with certain people there. But it completely supports everything that you're doing. Totally supports that. And the fact that Pakistan is going to be Prime Minister Sharif and Asim Munir will be in Riyadh, maybe tomorrow, I think. And then they are going to be also meeting with the Turkish officials. They will the prime Erdogan. They will be meeting with Sisi in Egypt, and this has become a very significant power block. It has become a power block. Now, what we have not said so far, but I think that it needs to be said, is that China is solidly behind all of this. Every time there is any development, the deputy prime minister of Pakistan, who is also the foreign minister, is in direct contact with Wang Yi. Sometimes he flies there, sometimes he calls him, but every single act is blessed by Wang Yi, and also in the background blessed by Putin. So there are two major powers supporting this, and the US is out. No doubt about it. US is out. Now, having worked with, erecting the petrodollar, unfortunately, I'm not, proud of that at all. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say that I played, a key role in that. Uh, I am happy to say that that is going to come to an end. In fact, it is already coming to an end. And in 5 years, I think it will not be a force at all. At which point, I have no idea how the US is going to finance $40 trillion in debt. So far, it's just been doing that by printing money.
I mean, look, frankly, that's. Let's not talk about the petrodollar today. Let's return to that on another day because that's a very complicated issue. Let's stay with the question of regional diplomacy and what's been happening because the situation in India is very complicated, as you well know. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, he welcomed the memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. Well, India had to welcome the memorandum of understanding, partly because the United States was a signatory, and secondly, India is very keen, like South Africa and other countries, to see oil price inflation come down, therefore food price inflation come down, fuel inflation, fertilizer, etc. So India welcomed the memorandum of understanding. There was an all party meeting. See, what's been happening is the opposition in India is furious with the Modi government. The opposition is saying the Modi government played this so badly that the in the end the Pakistan becomes the hero of the peace and India is completely out of it. So the external affairs minister or the foreign minister of India, Jay Shankar, addressed a closed all party meeting. At the all party meeting, he was very frank. He said, this is the situation. It's normal diplomacy. Pakistan played their hand very well and so on. But India is staying the course. India's main purpose is the oil. And, we'll welcome peace and anodyne. What can he say? In the end of the day, what can Jayashankar say? He can't say anything interesting at the moment because, well, China, Russia, Turkey, the Gulf Arab states, Saudi Arabia, United States, everybody wants this deal to go through. And of course, India wants it materially. The problem is, India wants the deal materially. It's a bit embarrassed to see Pakistan playing such a central role. And that has to be finessed in some way. But I would also like to say this is a very good opportunity for the Pakistanis and the Indians to start talking about the next phase. What is the next phase? Pakistan is riding high right now. Relationship with Iran could not be any better. I think this is an excellent moment to reopen the discussion about the peace pipeline, to start thinking about drawing the natural gas from the South Fars field right into Pakistan and then drawing the pipeline all the way into India. Why do I say that? Firstly, you will remember that last year the protests in Iran, which began initially as labor protests, because the finance minister of Iran, who's a neoliberal trained at the University of Chicago, had really pushed through an austerity budget, and particularly Iranian workers were very hard hit. So the protests actually start at the South Fars field, which is the main natural gas field in Iran, and then they eventually come to Tehran, and all kinds of murky forces backed by the United States and so on took to the street. There was rioting, and the government came in. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the protests in South Fars. Well, if we have a pipeline drawing natural gas directly into Pakistan, I'm going to tell you it's going to collapse prices of natural gas in Pakistan immensely. It will be enormously good for the Pakistani people. It will also go right through Baluchistan. It's an opportunity for the Baluch on both sides of the Pakistan and Iran border to see some economic benefits. Because remember, there was a clash that took place, an armed clash between Pakistan and Iran not so long ago. This might help stabilize some of that. And then if you run it through India, it's a great opportunity for India and Pakistan to open a dialogue on a material basis. Let's forget the other part of the border for a moment. I think where you do want file A and file B is on the India Pakistan dialogue. File A is really the India Pakistan issues which can be solved, which is the bulk of the border, getting the pipeline from Iran into India. Gas prices will collapse for everybody. India will pay Pakistan transit fees. Everybody will benefit materially from that. And then, of course, India won't have to import liquefied natural gas and so on. It's very expensive. Okay, that's file A. Okay, if you agree with me, that's file A. File B is the Kashmir sector. That's much too complicated for a simple dialogue. And the fact is, everybody has mushed the two files into one, has said the whole border has to be dealt with in one go, all the way from Xinjiang down to Sindh. I think it's a very bad situation. I think from Sindh up to Kashmir, and then from sections of Siachen should be dealt with separately. Firstly, we need to demilitarize Siachen. Our boys are freezing to death up there. I don't know why we keep sending our boys up there. It's much too cold, even for Pathans to sit up at the Siachen border. I think we need to demilitarize the glacier, and then we, conclude and make this the international border, proper international border, and then deal with the Kashmir issue with some quiet and reflection, and involve the Kashmiri people and so on. This is a huge opportunity for Pakistan. Pakistan is at a position of great strength and can come to the Indians with a magnanimous offer to sort certain things out, because the Iranians and the Pakistanis have never been closer than they are now. I think this is an enormous opportunity for us in South Asia. That's why, when you said Pakistan is now heavily involved in West Asia, I agree with you. But Pakistan must not forget that it has some South Asia problems. If these problems can be sorted out between India and Pakistan, imagine the impetus to sort out the India China issues. And then look at what Asia could do. Then think of what Asia could do.
Well, they say from your mouth to God's, from your lips to God's ears. I would like to say from your lips to the ears of people who are in power in Pakistan and in India. And I can add something to what you just said, and I completely, totally support every single thing that you just said. There is not a single thing that you said which I would take an exception to, but I would like to add certain things, simply because I have some privileged information, and some people are very kind to provide that to us so that it can be broadcast to the people in the world who need to be informed. Presently, as far as I know, there is a very high level delegation of Iran meeting with very high level uh, bureaucrats, politicians, people in power in Pakistan, talking about just this, everything that you just said, including the pipeline, including the pipeline. And there is a very significant chance that this is going to come through. Now, the next stage of that would be for the pipeline to go to India, which is, I completely agree with you, is the normal process. And I do not think that it is an impossible task. I think it is very doable. And I think that if relationships between Pakistan and Iran and the rest of the Gulf states continue to develop as they have been developing, because mainly because of the blessing that came from MBS in the form of the agreement, defense agreement, a very strong agreement, incidentally, which has been strengthened recently and not announced, but I can say that on this channel, includes a nuclear umbrella to Saudi Arabia. 8,000 troops already in King Abdulaziz base, and permission by MBS to increase that to 80,000. 80,000. Can you imagine that? That's a full military force. So, to the fact that Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is blessing everything that is going on in terms of normalization, a relationship. And there was a secret high level delegation between Saudi Arabia and Iran. I can report that as privileged information that I received. Took place yesterday, and Pakistan is there. Iran insists on naming this agreement as the Islamabad Agreement, even though there has been a pushback from Trump. So the reaction from Tehran was, well, you can call it an MOU. We will call it the Islamabad Agreement. So I completely agree with you, Vijay, and I think that shows like this, where we put this information out, and hundreds of thousands of people are listening to us in their language, and there is bound to be a groundswell of people demanding from their leaders, as they were demanding answers to the last video that we put out, in which we said Pakistan provided technical assistance to neutralize the AI assisted killing, Palantir, unfortunately. So, I mean, we are coming close to the time that you were kind enough to give to us, Vijay, and 1 week looks like too long for us to meet again. But you are traveling, you are very busy, and I am very happy to take whatever time that you give us. So we will meet again next Thursday at the same time. But I would like to offer you the opportunity and request that you provide the closing remarks on a whole range of things that we have discussed. Very significant things.
I mean, I'm very happy to be here. This channel is going to turn out to be very good. It's a great place for us to air our own thoughts, but also what we are reporting, people that we've been talking to over the years. Your contacts in Islamabad, mine in Delhi, in the Gulf Arab states. There's interesting stories coming from Mongolia, where the Indians have spent 1.7 billion to build a new oil refinery, landlocked country, enormous oil discoveries there. The Indians have put a lot of money. How are they going to get the oil from Mongolia to India if not through China? I mean, there's no way. It's a landlocked country. Maybe Russia. We don't know. But these are all interesting developments that nobody's looking at. I mean, where in the New York Times are you going to get a report about India's investment in Mongolia? Forget it. We are looking at this. Our friend Pepe Escobar is always looking around Eurasia, in Europe and Asia, to see what's going on. So I'm very happy that we are here together. Just in closing, though, I'd like to say that this war of aggression on Iran has opened up so many interesting possibilities. On the one side, of course, we grieve the loss of life. We are watching the Iranian football team admirably equip itself in the World Cup. Talking always about the war, about the children being killed in that war, and so on. Very, very proud of what those boys are doing as they fly from Mexico to the US to play their matches and are being hurried out. Really proud of those boys. But what this war has done, this illegal war, is it's really transformed West Asia and South Asia. And you're right. We're talking today, tomorrow, day after, by Monday. We don't know the difference. The biryani is getting cold just when it gets off the fire. The I don't know whether you're a aloo man, a potato man in biryani or not.
Everything,
Yeah.
Vijay,
So
that
if
comes
you're a
from our
potato
kitchen.
man, if you're a potato man in biryani, by the time you get the aloo or the potato and break into it, it's totally cold. Because the news is happening so fast, and I'm sure by that when we talk next, the landscape would have changed. But I would say let's pick it up from this idea of the tectonic shifts that have been taking place in the Gulf Arab states, in Tehran, but mostly in Islamabad, and hopefully some of that energy will spill over into India. So I mean, I would say when we talk next week, let's pick this up and see where we go.
Well, in the meantime, Vijay, we will certainly do that. But in the meantime, I am fortunate to have a very talented crew that is going to take this video and is going to put it out on our channel, where we have, I'm very happy to say, 50,000 subscribers, nearly 50,000 subscribers already in less than 10 days. And about 1 million views on the shows that we have done. you know Channels take 3 years to get to this space, and I would say that the reason is the quality of reporting that we are doing with people like yourself, who are not guests but founding members of this channel, and hopefully will continue to provide this kind of information, because that is what you do. You travel the world to do that. I mean, you just came back from a world tour and you're back on a world tour, and Pepe does that as well. So thank you very, very much. I hope that you can eat your biryani where you are, because my son was recently there, and hopefully, the world continues to get closer and closer, so that we can eat our ethnic food wherever we go. So thank you very much, Vijay. I really, really look forward to talking to you every time, and I completely enjoy the conversation.
Me
So
too. Likewise.
yeah, I'm going to hit the stop. Just give it a second for it to upload.